all of this, ilium. So I particularly like to show the ilium where it's attached to the large bowel. So there's no doubt that that's got to be ilium. You see that attachment. And then you would name the attachment right in there. IC junction or IC valve. Either way is fine. So I encourage you to abbreviate on the handouts, then by all means use it for answers. You don't have to write it out. There's the IC junction. And then we're into the large bowel, blind pouch, cul-de-sac, cecum, up the right-hand side, ascending colon, turns underneath the liver, hepatic flexure, goes across underneath the stomach, transverse, turns down underneath the spleen, splenic flexure, down the left-hand side, descending colon, hits the edge of the ilium and forms that S shape, sigmoid, and then straightens out intrapelvically as the rectum, the last part right in there. Those are the named parts of the large bowel or colon that you absolutely have to know. And that you see is framing the small bowel. You would then be able to name this tissue here or here. Mesentery, still quite fat laden. Yellowish look. Length of the jejunum, 8 feet. Ilium, 12. Unintentionally put this key, this clue in here, 1, 8, and 12. Even though they're there to number other structures, they can remind you about lengths of the parts of the small bowel. How about this reflective, glistening layer that you see here, reflecting the light? Yeah, there's the visceral peritoneum. They should be absolutely clear so that you're really looking through it to the muscularis externum. Especially if someone's healthy and not having any infection in that area. And then exteriorly for the colon, pouches, called haustra, or saculations, either way is fine. And then bands on the surface. There's a T. coli. Would describe it as a longitudinal band on the surface of the colon. 3 of them. So that's everything you could expect for that slide. And then this is sort of a top to bottom review for your gross, a great specimen. And you could just work your way straight down with esophagus and inside, even saying there's the cardia of the stomach, and then you've got fundus over here, body, pyloric stomach, lower end, remains of the supporting tissue, lesser omentum right there, Continue down. So, well, here's the small bowel coming out of the stomach. Takes that left-hand turn. Got to be duodenum. Then all of this over here. Jejunum. And then you can see it connecting right there. Got to be ileum. Joining together right there. IC junction or IC valve into the side of the colon, cecum, and then in this specimen you can see a notable structure off the cecum. You know that as the appendix. We only name it because it's part of that structure, but functionally you really don't think of the appendix having anything to do with GI function. Nothing to do with digestion. And then ascending, hepatic flexure, transverse, splenic flexure, descending, sigmoid, rectum. Nice presentation all the way around. Scrunched up this fatty tissue apron. So there's the greater omentum pushed up so we could see what was underneath. Supporting tissues. Mesentery. Saculations. Haustra. Surface band. And here. E. coli. Right. So that's a summary of everything, even the reflective glistening layer. So it's been slathered with lots of vegetable oil to make that look reflective. So now you're looking at visceral peritoneum. And in the gross anatomy, you should use visceral peritoneum and not serosa. Serosa is for the histo. That's sort of a technical difference, but usually not really severe when it comes to interchanging those. All right. On to the histo. Takes care of all but one structure for the gross anatomy. This I will not ask you about, tongue papilla. So we'll go right to the salivary tissues. Very likely I'll say, well, what salivary tissue is this? Once again, listen to the question. I do get pancreas all the time. Trying to help you, that you would go from like 1 in 20 tissues to 1 in 3 if you heard the term salivary. All right? Now you have 1 chance in 3. You look around and say, the glandular part looks all the same. Same cell making up the glandular tissue, all serous. That's human parotid, right? Some little area, all the cells are the same. And then you go through the progression. What salivary tissue is this? Well, you got all the serous cells dominating. There's a few mucus cells. So mostly serous with a little bit of mucus always equals submandibular glands. This is submandibular. Are those letters going to be there next week? I think that's a little too much to hope for. Otherwise, a real good bribe might do it. Porsche sitting in my driveway tomorrow morning would be nice. But yeah, these won't be there, giving you a little help. And then you can name these little crescents here and here, demilunes. Yep. That's the best demilune right there. Little Kappa cirrus cells. But you know you can't have those in parotid because you don't have mucus cells. Demilune, just a little cap on the mucus cells right there. And they also ask, well, what's the smallest duct carrying the secretions out of the salivary tissues? Smallest duct, intercalateds, which go into striated, which go into excretory. So you need to know the duct sequence for this exocrine tissue. This is actually an intercalated right there, and this is a striated over there. Those are no ID. I just want you to know of them. I will not point to them. And then the last of the progression, you get a specimen like this. Massive amount of mucus cell clustering here and then even here. So now you're at sublingual glands, mostly mucus, with now a little bit of serous, with little demilunes down here. But I would always show you demilunes much more magnified, like the previous slide. It just says they are prevalent in sublingual as well. So now you're thinking for next week, all serous parotid, almost all serous with a little mucus submandibular, and then flip it to almost all mucus with a little bit of serous for sublingual. If you have that in mind, you can't go wrong with your salivary gland identification.